Seniors top 11 eye-protecting seeds for stronger, clearer vision after 60. Wait, did you just hear that right? Seeds? Yes, I know what you're thinking. Some of you might be nodding along, saying, of course. I've always believed that food can heal the body. But I also know there are plenty of you shaking your heads right now, thinking, come on, seeds, how could something so tiny actually help my eyes? I need real medicine, not bird food. And trust me, I get it. As a doctor who's been working with seniors for decades, I've heard every opinion under the sun. Some people swear by supplements, some rely on expensive eye drops, and others think it's all just genetics and luck. But here's the surprising truth. What you eat can have a massive impact on your eyesight. And these 11 powerful seeds are packed with nutrients that support your retina, reduce inflammation, and help maintain sharper, clearer vision well into your golden years. Imagine being able to read your favorite book without those annoying magnifiers, or driving at night without that blinding glare. Picture yourself enjoying a sunset or spotting every detail in your grandchild's smile. Sounds too good to be true? Well, today we're going to bust some myths and show you the science behind these seeds, so you can decide for yourself. But hey, before we jump into all the juicy details, don't forget to hit that like button, share this video with your friends, especially those who keep complaining about their reading glasses, and subscribe to our channel. Your support gives us the energy to keep bringing you honest, practical, and inspiring health tips every single week. Stick around because I promise, by the end of this video, you'll never look at those tiny seeds on your salad the same way again. Let's get into it. Number 1, pumpkin seeds, the zinc powerhouse for night vision. Pumpkin seeds, or pepitas, are tiny but powerful seeds that can make a big difference for seniors struggling with night vision. These seeds are one of the richest plant sources of zinc, a mineral that helps deliver vitamin A to your retina. Vitamin A supports melanin production, which protects your eyes from harmful light and helps you see better in the dark. As we age, our zinc levels naturally decline, making it harder for our eyes to adjust to dim light. That's why many older adults avoid driving at night or have trouble recognizing faces in low lighting. I remember Mrs. Helen, a 74-year-old former dance instructor, who stopped driving after 5 p.m. because of the blinding glare from headlights. We added 2 tablespoons of raw pumpkin seeds to her daily meals. She mixed them into her yogurt and tossed them on her salads. Within a few months, she felt confident enough to drive at night again and even started going back to her evening dance socials. Pumpkin seeds also contain vitamin E, lutein, zeaxanthin, and magnesium, all of which support eye health and reduce inflammation. When choosing pumpkin seeds, always pick raw and unsalted to avoid extra sodium. Soaking them overnight improves digestibility, and lightly toasting at low heat can give a nice crunch without destroying nutrients. You can sprinkle them over oatmeal, blend them into smoothies, or turn them into seed butter. Beyond protecting your eyes, pumpkin seeds also support heart health, improve sleep thanks to tryptophan, and promote prostate health in men. Studies have shown that higher zinc intake can lower the risk of age-related macular degeneration and improve how quickly your eyes recover from bright light. If you've ever felt scared to drive at night or struggled with glare at a restaurant, consider swapping your usual snack for pumpkin seeds. Tiny changes like this can help you keep enjoying life's details, from nighttime city lights to your grandchild's evening soccer game. So, are you ready to give these little green powerhouses a try today? Let me know how you plan to include them. I'd love to hear it. Number 2, fennel seeds, the circulation reviver. Fennel seeds might be tiny and often ignored in the spice cabinet, but they're a powerful ally for your eyes, especially as you age. These seeds improve microcirculation, which is the flow of blood through the smallest vessels in your body. Good microcirculation is essential because it delivers oxygen and nutrients to the retina and optic nerve, helping your eyes function at their best. When blood flow weakens, it can lead to increased intraocular pressure, a major risk factor for glaucoma and other vision problems. Fennel seeds are rich in flavonoids and vitamin C, 2 compounds that reduce oxidative stress and strengthen fragile capillaries. I think about Mr. Tom, a 69-year-old gardening enthusiast who spent hours among his roses, but always complained of eye fatigue and blurry vision by the end of the day. We started him on fennel seed tea after lunch and dinner, and within a few weeks, he told me his eyes felt less tired, and the colors in his garden seemed brighter and more vibrant. Besides tea, fennel seeds can be chewed after meals to help with digestion and stabilize blood sugar levels, which indirectly benefits eye health by keeping those small blood vessels healthy. You can also grind them and sprinkle over soups or salads for an extra kick of flavor and nutrients. Research published in the Journal of Ocular Pharmacology and Therapeutics even showed that fennel extracts could help lower eye pressure and improve blood flow in animal models, suggesting real potential for people too. Have you ever noticed your eyes feel heavy after reading or working on the computer for a long time? Or that they look red and tired at the end of the day? Those might be signs of poor eye circulation. Imagine being able to read your favorite book without stopping, enjoy a full day in the garden, or truly see the bright colors around you without strain. Wouldn't it be worth adding just a teaspoon of fennel seeds to your routine? How would you try it first, in tea, chewed raw, or sprinkled on food? I'd love to hear how you plan to make this small but powerful change. Number 3, sunflower seeds, the retinal protector. Sunflower seeds might seem like a simple snack, but they're an incredible way to protect your eyes as you age. These little seeds are packed with vitamin E, a powerful antioxidant that helps guard your retinal cells from free radical damage and slows down the progression of age-related macular degeneration, one of the top causes of vision loss in seniors. They also contain selenium, zinc, and copper, which work together to support overall retinal health, keep cell membranes stable, and strengthen the tiny blood vessels that supply your eyes. I always think of Mrs. Daisy, an 80-year-old former librarian who felt heartbroken when she could no longer read her favorite mystery novels. She told me it felt like she was losing a part of herself. We added a small handful of raw, unsalted sunflower seeds to her afternoon snacks, and within a few months, she was reading again without magnifying glasses and even returned to her neighborhood book club. Studies like the Age-Related Eye Disease Study, AREDS, have shown that higher vitamin E intake can lower the risk of advanced AMD by up to 25% in high-risk individuals. That's a huge difference when it comes to keeping your independence and enjoying simple pleasures like reading or watching your grandkids play. I always recommend choosing raw, unsalted sunflower seeds to avoid excess sodium, which can harm your blood pressure and eye circulation. You can sprinkle them on yogurt or cereal, mix them into oatmeal, blend them into smoothies, or turn them into a creamy seed butter for toast or fruit dips. Have you noticed your eyes feeling tired after reading or using the computer for a while? Or maybe you find it harder to focus on small text as the day goes on. What if a small, crunchy snack could help keep your vision clear and strong for years to come? Would you try adding sunflower seeds to your daily routine? Tell me how you'd enjoy them best. I'd love to hear your ideas. Number 4, chia seeds, the sugar and hydration stabilizer. Chia seeds might look tiny, but they can make a huge difference for your eyes and overall health, especially as you get older. When soaked, they form a gel-like texture that helps slow down how quickly your body digests carbs, keeping your blood sugar steady. This is really important for seniors, particularly those dealing with diabetes or prediabetes, because stable blood sugar helps protect the delicate blood vessels in your eyes and lowers the risk of diabetic retinopathy. Chia seeds are also loaded with ALA, a plant-based omega-3 fatty acid that your body converts to DHA, a major building block of your retina. Low levels of DHA can lead to retinal thinning and macular degeneration, which means blurry vision and trouble seeing fine details. I think of Mr. Leo, a 72-year-old retired math teacher with type 2 diabetes, who often complained about floaters and blurry vision that changed throughout the day. After he started adding soaked chia seeds to his morning smoothies, he told me his vision felt more stable. He noticed fewer floaters, and reading on his tablet became much easier. Research has shown that higher omega-3 intake is linked to a lower risk of advanced macular degeneration, and chia seeds are one of the easiest ways to get more of these healthy fats. I usually recommend soaking 1 to 2 tablespoons of chia seeds overnight to create a pudding-like texture, which makes them easier to digest. You can mix this into smoothies, yogurt, or overnight oats, or even add them to baked goods for a boost of fiber and omega-3s. Have you ever noticed your vision gets blurrier after a sugary meal, or that your eyes feel more tired and sensitive? Those could be signs your eyes need better blood sugar control and hydration. Would you be open to starting your day with a chia pudding if it could help you read more clearly and reduce glare when driving at night? How do you think you'd enjoy chia seeds best? In a smoothie, pudding, or maybe mixed into a muffin. I'd love to hear your ideas. Number 5. Nigella seeds, the blood flow booster. Nigella seeds, also known as black cumin, might be tiny, but they're packed with powerful benefits for your eyes. Their main active compound, thymoquinone, acts as a strong antioxidant and anti-inflammatory agent, helping protect the delicate structures in your eyes. Research shows that Nigella seeds can lower intraocular pressure, improve blood flow to the retina, and relax small blood vessels, all of which are important for preventing glaucoma and keeping your vision healthy as you age. I think of Mrs. Grace, a 76-year-old calligraphy enthusiast who struggled with eye strain and blurry vision during her long writing sessions. After she started adding half a teaspoon of black seed oil to her morning tea with honey, she told me her eyes felt less tired, and her vision seemed clearer and more stable all day. A study even showed that black seed oil helped lower eye pressure in people with glaucoma within just a few weeks, proving how effective these seeds can be. I always recommend using Nigella seeds consistently to see real benefits. You can chew a few raw seeds each morning. Mix about half a teaspoon of black seed oil into warm water with honey for a soothing drink. Or sprinkle ground seeds on roasted vegetables or salads for a flavorful and healthy kick. Have you ever felt pressure behind your eyes after reading or working on a computer for a long time? What if something as simple as a few seeds could help you feel more comfortable and protect your vision in the long run? Would you try adding black seed oil to your tea, or maybe try chewing the seeds in the morning? I'd love to know how you'd enjoy them best. Number 6. Fenugreek seeds, the sugar guardian. Fenugreek seeds have been trusted in traditional medicine for centuries because they help lower blood sugar and reduce oxidative stress, both of which are critical for protecting your eyes from diabetic retinopathy and cataracts. These seeds are also rich in lutein, a powerful carotenoid that acts like a shield by filtering out harmful blue light and protecting the macula, the part of your retina that gives you sharp, detailed vision. I think about Mr. Robert, a retired birdwatcher who used to complain that his eyes felt irritated and tired after long mornings with his binoculars. After he started drinking fenugreek seed water every morning, he told me his eyes felt less strained, and he could focus on the fine details of bird feathers for much longer. Research has shown that fenugreek can improve blood sugar control and help reduce harmful compounds that damage the eyes over time. I usually recommend soaking 1 teaspoon of fenugreek seeds overnight in a glass of water and drinking that water first thing in the morning on an empty stomach. You can also grind the seeds and add them to soups, stews, or sprinkle them over roasted veggies. If you find the taste too strong, lightly toasting the seeds before grinding can help. Have you ever noticed your eyes feeling blurry or heavy after a big meal, or when your blood sugar runs high? Those are signs that your eyes might need extra support. Would you be willing to start your day with a glass of fenugreek water if it helped you see more clearly and stay comfortable while reading or enjoying your hobbies? How would you like to try using fenugreek as a morning drink or mixed into your favorite foods? I'd love to know what sounds best to you. Number 7. Flax seeds, the omega-3 eye shield. Flax seeds are the richest plant source of ALA, an omega-3 fatty acid that your body converts into DHA, which is essential for keeping your retina healthy and strong. Low DHA levels are linked to retinal thinning and blurry vision, especially as we get older. Flax seeds also help lower inflammation, stabilize blood pressure, and prevent capillary leakage into the retina, which is a major reason many seniors experience blurry or distorted vision. I think about Mr. George, an 83-year-old chess enthusiast who used to struggle with reading the tiny notations on his chess boards during matches. After he started drinking a daily flax seed smoothie, he told me his focus improved, and he could read small print without straining, making his games more enjoyable. Research shows that a diet rich in omega-3s can lower the risk of advanced age-related macular degeneration and support overall eye health. I always recommend using ground flax seeds instead of whole ones because whole seeds usually pass through your system undigested, meaning you miss out on their benefits. You can mix ground flax seeds into yogurt, smoothies, oatmeal, or sprinkle them on salads. Just make sure to store them in an airtight container in the fridge to keep them fresh and prevent the healthy fats from turning rancid. Have you ever felt your eyes get hazy after a long day or noticed that your vision isn't as crisp as it used to be? What if adding a simple spoonful of flax seeds could help keep your eyes sharp and strong for years to come? Would you rather try them in a smoothie, stirred into your breakfast bowl, or on top of a salad? I'd love to hear how you'd enjoy adding flax seeds to your daily routine. Number 8. Almonds, the vitamin E defender. Almonds are an amazing source of vitamin E, a powerful fat-soluble antioxidant that helps fight free radicals in your eyes and supports a healthy tear film to prevent dryness. Many older adults deal with dry, irritated eyes that make it hard to enjoy activities like reading or painting. I always think of Mrs. Susan, a 78-year-old watercolor artist who had to take constant breaks because her eyes felt so dry and uncomfortable. After she started eating a small handful of raw almonds every day, she was able to paint for hours without irritation and even started a new flower series inspired by her garden. Research shows that vitamin E can lower the risk of age-related macular degeneration and protect delicate eye cells from oxidative damage. I always recommend eating raw, unsalted almonds because added salt can raise blood pressure, which isn't good for eye or overall health. You can enjoy almonds as a simple snack. Chop them up to sprinkle on salads, oatmeal, or yogurt, or blend them into almond butter to spread on toast or mix into smoothies for a creamy texture and extra nutrients. Have you noticed your eyes feel tired or irritated after reading or looking at a screen for too long? What if a small handful of almonds could help you stay comfortable and focused longer? Would you rather enjoy them as a crunchy snack in your breakfast bowl or as smooth almond butter? I'd love to hear which way sounds best to you. Number 9. Walnuts, the inflammation fighter. Walnuts are amazing because they're packed with plant-based omega-3 fatty acids that support healthy blood vessels and reduce overall inflammation, which is crucial for protecting your eyes from retinal diseases as you age. I think about Mr. Michael, a retired pilot who struggled with night vision and glare from headlights, making him feel unsafe driving at dusk. After he started snacking on walnuts daily, he noticed big improvements in his contrast sensitivity and felt much more confident driving in low light. Research shows that a diet high in omega-3s can lower the risk of age-related macular degeneration and help maintain overall eye health. I always recommend eating raw or lightly toasted walnuts without added salt to avoid unnecessary sodium, which can raise blood pressure and harm circulation. You can enjoy walnuts on their own, mix them into a trail mix with berries and seeds for a tasty snack, or blend them into smoothies or homemade energy bars for extra creaminess and nutrition. Have you ever struggled with glare while driving at night or felt your eyes working harder in the dark? What if something as simple as a handful of walnuts could help make night driving easier and keep your eyes healthier? Would you rather enjoy them as a quick snack, in a trail mix, or blended into a smoothie? I'd love to know which way sounds best to you. Number 10. Cashews, the lutein and zinc supporter. Cashews are a great source of lutein and zinc, two important nutrients that help keep your eyes strong and healthy as you age. Lutein protects the macula, the part of your retina responsible for sharp central vision, by filtering out harmful blue light from screens and sunlight. Zinc supports healthy immune responses in the eyes and helps deliver vitamin A to the retina to produce protective pigments. I always think of Mrs. Linda, a dedicated quilter who used to feel like her eyes were heavy and tired after spending hours working on intricate patterns. After she started eating raw cashews regularly, she noticed her eyes felt fresher, and she could quilt longer without discomfort. Research shows that higher lutein intake is linked to a lower risk of age-related macular degeneration, while zinc deficiency can lead to poor night vision and faster vision decline. I always recommend raw, unsalted cashews to avoid extra sodium that can raise blood pressure and affect circulation. You can enjoy cashews as a simple snack, blend them into creamy sauces or plant-based cheeses, or toss them into stir-fries and grain bowls for extra texture and richness. Have you ever felt your eyes get heavy or tired after working on a computer or focusing on detailed tasks? What if a small handful of cashews could help your eyes stay comfortable and focused longer? Would you prefer to snack on them plain, blend them into a sauce, or mix them into your dinner? I'd love to hear how you'd like to add cashews to your day. Number 11. Sesame seeds, the pressure regulator. Sesame seeds are full of zinc, vitamin E, and lignans, a powerful combination that helps regulate intraocular pressure, reduce oxidative damage, and keep your eyes strong and healthy as you age. Keeping your eye pressure in check is important because high pressure can increase your risk of glaucoma and other vision problems. I always think of Mr. Henry, a 79-year-old history lover who enjoyed reading thick historical journals, but often had to stop because his eyes felt tired and strained. After he started adding sesame seeds to his salads every day, he told me he could read much longer without discomfort and felt more focused. Research shows that vitamin E helps protect your eyes from oxidative stress. Zinc supports the enzymes that keep your retina healthy, and lignans provide anti-inflammatory and antioxidant benefits. I always recommend using raw or lightly toasted sesame seeds without added salt. You can sprinkle them on salads, stir-fries, or avocado toast, add them to soups, or make homemade tahini for a creamy and nutritious spread. They also work well in baked goods or mixed into energy balls for a simple snack. Have you ever noticed your eyes feel tired or strained after reading or using the computer for a while? What if adding sesame seeds to your meals could help your eyes stay comfortable and your vision stay clearer? Would you rather sprinkle them on a salad, stir them into soup, or enjoy them as creamy tahini? I'd love to know how you'd like to try them. All right, seniors, we've just covered the top 11 eye-protecting seeds for stronger, clearer vision after 60. And let's be real, who knew something so small could be so powerful? Let's do a quick recap. We talked about pumpkin seeds for their zinc power that helps you see better at night. We mentioned fennel seeds to boost circulation and lower eye pressure. Then we had sunflower seeds, loaded with vitamin E to protect your retina. Chia seeds help stabilize your blood sugar and keep your eyes hydrated. Nigella seeds, or black cumin, improve blood flow and reduce eye strain. Fenugreek seeds lower blood sugar and protect your macula with lutein. Flax seeds are your plant-based omega-3 shield for the retina. Almonds keep your eyes moist and fight free radicals with vitamin E. Walnuts help lower inflammation and improve night vision. Cashews bring in lutein and zinc to support your macula. And finally, sesame seeds regulate eye pressure and add extra antioxidant power. All of these seeds can easily be added to your daily routine, in smoothies, on salads, in your oatmeal, or just as a simple snack. Remember, you don't have to change your whole life overnight. Start with 1 or 2 seeds and build up from there. Small steps can lead to big changes when it comes to your vision and overall health. So which seed are you most excited to try first? Drop it in the comments below. I love hearing your stories and seeing what's working for you. And hey, if you found this video helpful or inspiring, please don't forget to hit that like button, share it with your family and friends, and subscribe to our channel. Your support truly helps us keep making videos that help you live healthier and happier lives. Thank you so much for watching. Take care of your eyes, and I'll see you in the next video.